Buongiorno a tutti. I think you can hear me. Can you hear me without a microphone?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. We had roughly 50 people RSVP for today's conference, and I heard more people were coming, but probably so. Probably they're not all coming to the very first session. So we'll start anyway. We'll try to be in time. For those who don't know me, my name is Sasha Perugini, and I have the immense honor of being the director of here at Syracuse University in Florence. And here with me I have Patrick Burke, the director of Gonzaga University. I am very grateful to Patrick because when I started my job, when I started my job here almost 2 years ago, well, more than 2 years ago now, quite immediately Patrick contacted me as an expert in HR management, international education, and human resources management. And I did have, at the time I had written a couple of articles and had presented at conferences, but again, I can't consider myself an expert. In any case, we started talking about a lot of issues, and we came up with the idea, Patrick, you came up with the idea of this conference, and so we've been working on planning this, and for 2 years now, and I'm really, really, really happy that this is now happening and taking place. I think it's a very hot topic. We had the workshop on the standards in international higher education yesterday, and even just participating at the workshop, it was evident to me how this kind of, let's not call it a conference, but let's call it get-together are really needed. There's a major need to talk about these topics, to discuss. And the way I see this event today is really an intellectual and academic attempt to, put our heads together and think about our professional area. It's really a good time to rethink our professional area, rethink a different language. I think we need different words, different language that defines our field, and we need to have, I think in our field, we need to have a clear idea of our professional identity, which is so specific. And this is what I will talk about in my speech. Just before I pass the word to you, just a few words about Syracuse University in Florence, because people ask me about this, and so I want to make sure I just give you a few details. Syracuse University was established in Florence in 1959. It started in this building probably around the 70s. I'm not sure here. The building was bought. The whole program now runs in a total of 6 buildings. 3 of those are owned, the others are leased. And we have overall roughly, with staff and faculty, 70 employees, and we host an average of, I'd say, 700 students a year, pretty much. So this is kind of the operation. It's a pretty large operation. And yeah, and it's pretty fun. I invite you to see the garden afterwards and enjoy your break. So I'll pass the word to Patrick, and thank you very much for coming today.
Well, it's been a great pleasure working with Sasha and Michelle and Amy in organizing this conference. It used to be the case that almost every 50 years, American higher education reinvented itself. But now it's facing, the colleges and universities are facing an epochal transition. There are new realities, there's diverse trends, and we have demographics, market competition, globalization, the mass media technologies, communication technologies in the classroom, and then now study abroad. And all that, I think, is reshaping higher education. The study abroad phenomenon is amazing. Already, for a long time, the students have been able to directly and in person confront diverse cultures and to confront the interdependence of economic systems. And, Sasha and I are passionately, heart and mind, devoted to the flourishing of international education, because there's been that axial shift from American education, in the case of our schools, to international education. And I don't think it can be stopped. I don't think we can retrench back into the old academy. I think that it is international. And so we're passionately committed to this flourishing of international education. And that flourishing, of course, is facing some major challenges, rooted principally in human resource management and capital development. I'm especially keen on capital development because I'm broke. We have some very rich people who like Gonzaga and Florence and who were students in the program. And I would love to have some of their money be devoted to our students. I'll be commenting on that a little later. But human resource management is really important, and if you looked carefully at the program, we have folks that will be confronting how do we treat a number of questions, especially the place of faculty in study abroad programs in Italy. Also, the resident directors, what kind of competencies should they have internationally? And what kind of competencies should the persons back home have? Should they have international competence? So I think that the themes of this conference are really very important. And I'm really pleased that this is the first.
We're just talking about it. Hopefully there will be a
This is the
second one.
first. So Sasha and I are directors of two of the oldest programs in the city. Her program began in '59 and ours in '63. I was a student in 1964 at Gonzaga in Florence, so it's been wonderful being able to come back as dean and director. But I want to let you know, and I want to share with the words of Sasha that we welcome you, and we're really pleased that with your interest in what we're going to be doing. Thank you.
Before I start, I just want to say a few words. I may be touching on delicate issues. I'm aware of that. We're all aware of how delicate this topic is. But again, this is all meant to just, especially in my case, just to have an overview of the challenges in our field and of points that need attention, discussion, and academic and scholarly research. There's a lot of lack of literature in our field, and I think it's very important that we start collecting data and we start doing research in our field, and we start talking about ourselves, as I said, in a different way, in a different language. Because this is the main topic today is on human resources and capital development. Let me just first say how thankful, I have no words, really, to thank the staff here in Syracuse. When I started my job here 2 years ago, I was impressed. I've been in this field, in this business for 15 years now. I was working for other universities and providers, but I was impressed with the high level, really high quality of staff and faculty here, really. And at the very beginning, I kind of could say that more because I was just starting, but now after 2 years, it looks like I'm not bragging too much about our program, but I really wanted to be kind of promoting. But I was really impressed, and I wanted to thank everyone who's helped, from the gardener to Rosanna's like here to fix, chairs. I wanted to really thank everyone for helping us organize this. It's yesterday I was walking around and I was just looking at everyone running around, and I was really moved because I said, wow, everyone is taking care of their little thing without even me saying anything. At one point, we had this break during the workshop. I didn't even know where it was organized. That's how much I had delegated things. So So really thank you everyone here. There's Silvia, Amy, Camille, Michelle, Francesca, who are part of our staff, our coordinators, Matteo, Victoria. But thank you very much, really. So Peter, sorry. Thank you. So let's start. I may do this. What I plan to do in this in the time here, I want to do Gian, sorry. I'm missing. So what I plan to do today is just give a very generic and generalized overview of some areas that need to be addressed in this specific field and some topics that need attention. First of all, when we talk about human resources, we obviously talk about a home country, whether it's US or Australia. I used to work for an Australian university before, and a host country. So it could be Italy, it could be France, it could be Spain. So it's obvious that one of the main challenges that we face in our field is the clashes of legal system, labor standards, work ethics, work priorities. I mean, there are major differences. So one of the challenges we face every day, Borio is here, legal matters, we need.
I'm not the problem.
No, you're not the problem, but you are the physical evidence of how important this is, We all know. So for those who don't know, Franco Borio is the lawyer of the Association. Okay. So secondly, I would like to talk about the challenges of senior management at home campuses. We tend to discuss our challenges here locally as directors, what are our difficulties and what we face every day, but I also wanted to bring up what the challenges in senior management are. What is it that they, what problems they face every day, what is it that we as director present to them and how they try to assess those problems. Third, roles, positions, definitions of our roles, titles, what we do, how we do it, how this is defined, the workloads, responsibilities, our professional identity. What are we? Are we part of the home practice? Are we not? It's a major dilemma. What kind of training and formal educational path is available in our field? And also, I would like to address the fact that if we talk about, we may disagree on whether education is a commodity, but regardless, if we talk about international education as a business, I want to discuss about the impact of inadequate human resources management in international education when we treat it as a business. And conclusions. I really hope we will have a little debate at the end of this. So I'm planning to have a little bit of time to, not for Q&As, but for debate. Okay. So let's start with the first point, clashes of systems and standards. As I said, it's obvious. We're working with different legal system. We're working with different labor system. We are working with different unionized structures. We work with different ethics and performance expectations. What may be perceived a good performance, professional performance here in Italy may not be perceived equally in the United States or in Australia. We manage human resources differently. We manage human resources differently. We recruit differently. We train differently. We think about training differently, and the salary range is supposed to be different. So we're trying to put all this together. I will just talk about a little anecdote that I heard a few moments ago. It was during coffee break. Our study abroad program is hiring a person, and thankfully, someone enlightened in our office studying in Syracuse has asked one of our staff members, Amy, to be part of the search committee. And how many are you in the search? 5 people in the search committee to look for this person. Of all 5 people, Amy was telling me 10 minutes ago that the priority of 4 of these people was the academic background and the professional experience in the field that the person is searched for. Okay, only Amy, and because she's located here, for her the priority was experience, or at least the intention to be working with international students and in international education. This is how different the priorities in hiring and training are. 4 people out of a search committee not aware of what we need locally when we talk about this is a case manager, so we're talking about student emergencies. And you all know, especially directors here, know how important this is. We deal with student emergencies all the time. And none of these people were thinking, we need a person who's had international experience or wants to have international experience. And again, there's no good or bad here. There's not, it's just, it's different. And how do we put this together? And again, very different way to approach. I know I'm an HR person, I'd like to hear your point of view. There are different ways of approaching HR management. I'll let you read the quote, but I think it's interesting for me that, okay, I'm seeing you. It's interesting for me that we're talking about emerging culture, we're talking about cross-cultural issues, we're talking about intercultural approach. And when we talk about human resources management, where are we? Okay? Sorry, I keep going back. Okay. Next area I'd like to discuss is the challenges the senior management faces. When we meet at Arcadia meetings, and when we meet here with other directors or other professional fields, we talk about our difficulties, how the solitude of our role, alienation, and how many problems we have, labor issues, unions, and media, and blah blah blah. But what are the challenges of senior management at home campuses? First of all, are we part of the home campus or not? Is there a clear definition? Is that someone that says, yes, you are? How we define salary ranges, titles? There's a major dilemma, with faculty to that point. Do we have access to the same benefits, to training opportunities? Is that possible? Maybe it's not possible. But let's think about it. Maybe we don't want to go there. Maybe that is not. But let's not avoid this question. I think it's important that we ask that question, and we may find surprising answers. But it's important to start asking this question. Secondly, do the practices for managing human resources at home campuses, can they be applied to study? Can they? Maybe it's not possible. There are, in student services, there are things that are done at home campuses that cannot be done in study or program. Maybe there's no sense for doing them here. Again, we want to ask ourselves this question. We want to help, we want to assist senior management to try and address these questions. And then, can those practices be transferred? And if they can, how? How can that be done? Third, how is it possible to inform senior management adequately? Think about EMO, think about the Fornero reform, think about Profumo, that was another, to which extent do you say things? To which extent now the government, do we have a government, we don't have a government, and the EMU this morning was postponed to September. Do you say those things. Yes, we'll have the EVAs going up to 23%. You plan that in the budget. You don't plan in the budget. How do you process that information to try and not create too much anxiety? I'll get to this point. I always make this joke. I don't manage people or operation. All I do is managing anxiety all the time. This is my job. I manage anxiety. Anxiety about the professional role, anxiety about our numbers, about the printer not working, about the weather, whatever. Or the parent being anxious about the premises here. So how do we try to help senior management at the home campus to get the appropriate and necessary information in a way that is constructive and helpful? What do we say? How do we say it? How can we improve this process of communication? And again, I'm not going to go into details. And then, how can we address cultural differences? For instance, there is a tendency in Anglophone cultures, because of the historical differences in the labor history, there is a tendency to use dismissal as a solution to HR problem, which also is not in Italy when we talk about dismissals. It's a big deal. It's not if the job market is fluid as it is in the US, in Australia, and UK. Okay, you move on. That's easy. But it's not in countries such as Italy, Spain, France in a different way. Is this a solution? Is this a good practice? How can we address this? This can open up. It could be open door spots. And again, how can we help senior management in this? How can we solve when there are problems? How can we address this? What can we do? What could be a good practice? I'm very glad actually we had a workshop on the standards yesterday. Okay, now let's talk about roles, position descriptions, and responsibilities. What is the first and most important key role in a study, any study program, whether it has 10 students or 200? What is it? One person that is needed? Faculty, students, key role to run a study abroad program, to run a study abroad. What is the key role? IT. Okay.
A whole team, you cannot say one person.
No, but let's say you don't have the budget. When you're in a university, you want to open a program with 5 students. The director, okay? In my opinion, you need a legal representative. You need someone who signs checks, someone that opens a bank account, takes legal responsibility, someone that brings the students to a hospital if there's an emergency. You need someone that leases premises, that signs a contract. Okay? That's the one per, whether you have 100 students or 10 students. That's the first person that you need, okay? Regardless of numbers. Then we have other areas that need to be managed in any study abroad program, any offshore activities, whether it's a branch or it's a provider or whatever. And again, regardless of the number of students, we need to have a budget, we need to have facilities, we need to take care of students' housing. Again, whether it's 5 students or 500, we need to curriculum development, academic teaching courses. That's what we are about. Risk management and security, students and student life, legal matters and visas, not just for students, but also for faculty, field trips, emergencies. You may have more staff or not, but if you do more than one person, you will have to handle contracts, HR and unions. Assessment and monitoring of the program, it's necessary, it's fundamental. Strategic planning, marketing, PR, networking, visitors, feeders, school, other universities. Parents, they're getting more and more involved. I'm spending more and more time dealing with parents. It's becoming an area that needs to be managed. So again, regardless of the number of students that the program has, this all has to be covered. All of this. All of this. There are directors here. Do you disagree? Do you agree? I mean,
Completely.
so, you may have one person in the staff, two people in the staff. Come in. You know, regardless of the quantity of students and staff that you have, you will have to cover all those areas. You were telling me yesterday, you manage your staff in a flexible way because you need to cover all those areas. And when you have a turnover problem, you have whatever that needs to be covered. You cannot tell a student who's in the hospital, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have anyone covering for housing," or "I don't have anyone covering for emergency." Okay? I've been reading some position description for resident directors just for fun. I want to quote one. Of course, I'm not going to say who was searching for this position. This was published in 2012, I believe. Getting older. This is a resident director in the Middle East. This is a position description for the resident director. It's 5 pages. It was online. I'm not going to say yet whether it's a provider or university. So the resident director, according to the position description, is responsible for long-range planning, ongoing program evaluation, development, marketing, customer satisfaction, advise students, monitor changes in enrollment, monitor the quality of instruction, prepare student grade reports, serve as the first point of contact for any student request, teach one or more course, maintain the program library, hold regular and well-publicized office hours, obtain current and reliable information concerning health and safety, write an annual safety audit covering. I'm just reading a few lines, okay? I'm not reading everything. Secure appropriate medical and professional services, develop and maintain emergency preparedness, manage student evaluation, write the resident director report at the conclusion of each academic year, participate in the formulation of the program budget, establish and maintain local banking arrangement procedures for transfer of funds to the program, manage program finances, submit monthly expenses report, hire, supervise, and pay any necessary staff or subcontractors, participate in the writing of program materials, represent the program on sending school campuses at fairs, other duties as assigned. Okay? Then, the position description reads, each resident director is responsible for one study center. This typically represents 1 to 3 employees and 10 to 400 students. Okay, this gives a ratio of 1 employee can cover from 10 to 130 students. Okay? Then the position description continues, respond quickly to student, parents, and or sending school needs. Then, this is interesting too. An MA or its required PhD preferred candidate must have an academic background and has to know the local language and has to be native or near native fluency in the known language. Which is interesting because the position description is requested an academic background but has to manage finances and budget and communication, okay? Then, finally, and again, I've not read the whole position description, the resident director is expected to be on call for emergency circumstances 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay. And this, again, this is a real example, okay? I wanted to read this this is probably an excess, but I wanted to bring this up to really discuss about how difficult it is for senior management to open a program, try to cover all those areas. No funds, as to say, no money, how we do it, what we do it, what standards are available, what is the culture in the field. If we wanna, I think it's necessary, if we want to think about ourselves as high-level quality professional, as we are, we have to start having standards, and we have to start using a different language. I think it's important that we focus on this one and we start discussing these points. So, now, a very delicate point here. I'm touching a hot topic that's particularly hot here in Florence. Has received some media coverage, but when at the forum conference there were people from France discussing this too, and I can tell it's really a trendy topic right now, and a lot of people start feeling very strong about this. Again, going back to the initial, the beginning of my presentation, what are we? Are we part of the home campus or not? And especially, let's talk about faculty. The word used to define faculty inside of our program often, not always, is adjunct. What does the word adjunct mean? Anyone?
Temporary arrangement.
I know, adjunct, just the word. No, let's not talk about the title. The word adjunct. Qualcosa che aggiunge. Additional. Not relevant, right? Okay? It's not important. It's something in addition to. Okay? Adjunct. In addition to something else which is core, which is relevant and important, and adjunct is in addition, okay? Now, US is sending 270,000 students abroad every year. And this number is growing tremendously. If there's one business that is not suffering the economic crunch, it's international education. It's going up and up. And if we think about study abroad, can we still think, faculty who teach in study abroad programs are the core element of the academic life in a study abroad program? Can we still define faculty in study abroad program as additional, not relevant, collateral, adjunct? Is that possible? What is the language that we're using to define ourselves? Is this representative of our professional field? We are fighting what is called the bikini, the bikini factor. How can we continue to fight the bikini factor if we think and refer to ourselves as adjunct? How can we continue promoting the prestige and academic standards of our field if we don't use a professional language? This is where we have to start being aware of what we are, what we do, and what our mission is. I think it's important that we start reflecting on this, and that's why I wanted this conference, Bentley.
Well, what is the bikini factor? Sounds interesting.
The bikini factor, someone calls it, it sounds interesting, right? Someone calls it, what is the other one? Disneyland. It's this whole idea, or I call it.
I'm less interested already.
I personally called it postcard traveling.
Okay.
The whole idea that if you go to study abroad, you don't learn.
Gotcha.
Or the whole idea that studying abroad is just about fun. It could be, but it may even not be just that. So
I
that's
don't
the
want to teach you
beginning.
bikini though. We don't want to.
There's a lot to talk about, when we promote our programs, smiling faces, beaches, how do we promote ourselves? And of course, if we go to, I've been, Syracuse promoting our program, and you can't say, come to our program, you're going to study a lot. It's going to be very challenging, and you're going to spend all the time in your room, reading. And you're going to be graded very harshly and you're going to be handled by your faculty. Sure, yeah. And you say, no drinking, no bikinis. Okay. So we have to find a balance between the business and what we are. Okay, we have to be realistic about this. I keep going back. I wanted to say something else, but so what is the challenges of this ambiguity that is at the very bottom of our professional film? It's really the fundament, the caterpillar on which our professional area is based on this ambiguity here. Where are we? What are we? Okay? What happens? What does this create? Again, it creates a lot of anxiety. And anxiety, as I said, needs to be managed literally. Emails, meetings, proposals. So it's not just, we're not talking about something that is not concrete. You need to spend time to think about how you handle it, okay, and what you do to solve it. What does professional anxiety know? How's it possible, if a professor teaches one semester, how can he or she meet attendance? How's that possible, really? And it's obvious that this person will be moonlighting. It's natural, okay? So how this affects the program and what are the consequences? There's certainly one of the consequences is a diminished commitment to the program, possibly, because you spread yourself thin. You're teaching for different programs. And who do you commit to? Who gives you the business card? Who gives you the office? Who gives you access to the library? Who gives you funds to go to conferences? You have to survive at the end of the day. You have to pay your mortgage as anyone else. Now, we pride ourselves of, having great prestige and, offering great academic centers. But the moonlighting implies that here in Florence and in Rome, for sure, here in Florence we have roughly 47 programs. In Rome there are 60, pretty much, and there are others. Some professors offer the same courses in 5, 6, 7 programs. Is this a real competition? Do we want to be competitive with other programs? But sometimes the syllabi are the same. And how can I tell a parent, well, yes, you should come to Syracuse because we have this great course here. And the parent can tell them, what, the same course is taught there by the same professor. Why should I be paying your fee here? Okay, and that's again another concrete problem. How can we market ourselves if, one of the ideas that came up yesterday was, why don't we, programs in Florence, for instance, share the costs of professional development for faculty, since we are sharing our faculty pretty much. Why don't we put our courses together since we never have money for professional development? Another thing is discontinuity of curriculum, because there's this, again, professional anxiety. Am I part of this institution? Am I not? Continuous search for something else. And then there could be questions, are we scholars or not? Do we have to do research or not? There's no clear answer that research is necessary yet. There are a lot of gray areas. And this affects the curriculum, the program development, okay? And ultimately it affects the identity of the program. If you continue changing professors, here I think we're in good shape. I'm making here at Syracuse, but I'm talking about the field in general. If you continue changing people and professors and continuously training new people, I have recently introduced a formal orientation for new faculty to formally orient them once they start, so that they know what we are about and they know what our mission is. But again, training as a new person is very important. Styles and what we do, how we do it, the facilities, who's behind the scenes. So that, how can you develop the identity of the program if all these factors are so fluid and flexible? Yesterday we attended this workshop on the standards, and Brand Whale, who's the president of the Forum of Education Abroad, shared with us the preliminary report on a study that they're doing in staff and faculty in study abroad education. So I read this last night at midnight, and I added 2 more slides to my presentation this morning. This is one of them, and I wanted to share with you, again, talking about titles, job functions, responsibility, interpretation of our roles. I'll leave this on the desk. I literally didn't have the time to scan this and put it in the slide this morning, but this is a little relation between title and function. Okay. Find it. Give me a second. Oh, here it is. What they did, they requested to all those responding to this questionnaire to provide their title and then give a percentage of how much time these people were devoting to each specific area. And the total had to be 100. So if you look at the graphs and tables, what you see at the end is that most people do most of everything. So this is how titles and responsibilities and roles are not clear. Okay, there's not clear standards, and there's a lack of standardized responsibilities. This is just a start, just the beginning, but this is why I'm saying we need data, we need to talk about this, we need to start doing research, we need to discuss this in a more complete way. And this is just staff and faculty in international education, okay, whether here or in the US, only international education professionals, okay? I will have another slide on this later on. Now, one other thing that I think is never highlighted enough is the specific expertise in our area, in our field. The biggest debate for faculty is whether faculty should be doing research or not, That's the biggest debate. There's, the whole tenure track dilemma and are we part of it, not, the title, all of that. I'm not going to go into that because it's a hot topic and I would like to have a debate on that. But I want to point out specific activities that we do have in our field and are not taken into consideration, both for faculty and staff. First of all, we all, regardless of whether we've been trained on it or whether we're aware of it or not, we all have an intercultural and cross-cultural expertise. We develop it because we're in the field. Majority of us are bilingual. We don't have to be, but we end up being. And we act, whether staff or faculty, as cultural interpreters. I think about language and structure, for instance. If I ask any language instructor, do you teach cross-cultural competence? You'd say no. You'd say no. You'd say I'm not prepared. I'm not qualified. I don't have a title. But in fact, that happens. That happens naturally. You teach language. You teach pronunciation. You teach grammar. You teach intercultural competence, and you teach cross-cultural analysis as well, indirectly. This is not highlighted enough, and that happens in class as well. That job that you do with university funds, that happens naturally. Is that said in any syllabus in art history, for instance? When you go to a museum, you will explain much more and beyond One is the, you know how each syllabus has the objectives, you know? But if you do it here with faculty who've been trained here, faculty who've been trained internationally, it will necessarily have a different pedagogical and didactic approach. And I don't think this is recognized sufficiently. Then, the teaching experience, the didactic and pedagogy in study abroad program has a lot to do with field trips and field studies. It's a natural thing that that happens and has to happen, and there's a lot of professional preparation behind that. The Fornero reform forced us to do all those training in safety and security, but a lot of those were kind of naturally taken care in different ways, and sometimes informally, sometimes kind of casually, preparing people to handle emergencies and difficulties while outside of the class, because this is also an important part of our professionality. We do have to be aware of these problems, and teaching outside of a classroom space is different and has different challenges and a different culture, of course. And I also think that faculty in study abroad program have a very strong pedagogic and didactic flexibility, because not only we teach to an immense variety of students coming from all sorts of universities, but we also, the more and more we have international students, we have students with different cultural backgrounds. Asian students are being more and more common these days as international students and freshmen. We know how much that is very problematic in terms of the use of the language. And as a faculty, you have to take into consideration that, with papers and grading them, and how do you handle that? And, oral presentation can be difficult and painful sometimes. And studying abroad has, necessarily professionals in our field develop a different sensitivity to this, and a different professionality that I think is not adequately recognized. So my question today, which I would like to convey, is, can we sell international education if we're not internationalized? To which extent? Are we really producing what we say we are? Especially when we talk about senior management. And I'm going back here to this report. 59% of professionals working in international education has never lived abroad. Never. Okay? 59%.
What do you mean by live? Not travel.
Live, I would say. That's a good question. I often ask myself is, what do you define, study abroad? I would say that a minimum of 3 months and a half is the minimum that you would expect for, hence a semester abroad. It's the minimum that you should expect in our field, to have that kind of experience. So going back to the case manager, I think that should be the minimum requirement. Minimum, not only to make sure that the person has a professional understanding of our field, but these have to start to be the standards of training and selecting our field. We have to start being self-aware of what our strengths are and what is it that defines our role. The other number.
Does that figure refer to senior management or management?
No, that's in general of all respondents. However, there's another, and again, I'll leave this here, I couldn't make copies. There's another interesting section that talks about, all job titles in international education management. There's a president, vice president, provost, dean, director, program manager, resident director, marketing coordinator, business manager, coordinator, advisor, and administrative assistant. 8 of the 14 job titles listed here responded that they had not lived abroad. When we talk about provosts, 70% of provosts who have responded have never lived abroad. again, can we sell, and allow me to use this very negative word, can we sell international education if we are not internationalized? How can we manage this field? Questions?
I think that another problem aside from that one is also the communication between the home campus and the study abroad campus is limited if the people at the home campus don't have the international, expertise.
Yeah,
In fact, they don't know what's really going on.
Sometimes they don't understand. And it's really us who have to make our case and explain. How can you explain what culture shock is to a person who's never lived abroad? And you can say, of course, we all know when a student arrives here, we talk about culture shock, and the response again, yeah, sure, that's not going to affect me. But of course, then we all know that it does happen.
I was just wondering if on home campus management and study abroad management is aware of this lack. If there is an interest in becoming more internationalized and becoming more aware of what it means to run an international education program, is something that the forum, perhaps the forum on education abroad, is one of their objectives to involve home campus management more in understanding the difficulties of the challenges.
The forum is certainly doing a great job, and I think conferences in the field are also very helpful. I also think that associations such as ACUP in Italy, or there's a lot that we're doing. I'm very optimistic. I think there's a lot that we're doing right now, but there's a lot that has to be done. So it will take time. I think that I find it's kind of weird of me to say. I find this fun. It's a challenge. It's a major challenge. It will take time. It will happen at some point. I see this happening at some point. So I will, But as I said, these are baby steps to start looking at these things in a different way, to start talking about yourself in a different way, to start using a different language. The fact that my boss, Margaret, is not here, he is the Associate Professor for International Education. She was excited about this conference. She couldn't be here. But I think that's a very, it's a sign. The fact that in our case, they wanted a staff member from our study program to select a person on campus. That's smart, I think. Okay, these are little steps. So let's look at the positives, because talking about the negatives doesn't help anyone. So I see a lot of positives, and it will take time. Okay, moving on. Now, almost at the end. What kind of, as I said, remember when I was reading the position description about the resident director, they were asking a PhD and expertise around the finance and budget. What kind of formal educational paths are available for us? Do you know, have you heard of any PhD in running a study or program?
Yeah.
Sorry? You have it? Oh. Tell me about it.
It was very shy.
What about it?
What?
Oh, it's not in study abroad.
Oh, okay.
You mean PhD in study abroad?
No. It was a rhetorical question.
Oh.
Meaning, what kind of formal preparation do we have? We are requested to have PhDs. I have a PhD in theory history. I mean, literally archives and all. Am I using my competence in theory history? No. Am I using my PhD? Yes. Yes, it's very helpful. It's very helpful. I think, again, as we need literature, as we need scholarly work on this field, as we need discussion, as we need to talk about this, we also need to start having formal, recognized, or certified professional paths. That's also necessary. Now let's talk about one of the last points that I wanted to make. A lot of universities or providers, there are in our field there are for-profit and non-for-profit organizations, and a lot of universities and providers or for-profit organizations start international education businesses to make profit, literally to make profit. Some don't. Some universities start the business because it's good for the image of the program, because it's trendy, because lately there's a lot of talking about a global citizen, yet no one knows what that is exactly. It's also a good way to recruit international students. So there are numerous reasons why an organization or a university can start a business abroad. Patrick, you were saying, this costs a lot of money. But I found this number online, that 70% of international ventures fail due to lack of intercultural awareness and fail due to lack of adequate resources management. Now, this seems too high of a number, but regardless, this is not relevant. The number is not important. What is important is if the business has been thought of and planned, and if the business had started as a business, as a financial enterprise, how can we not consider the impact of inadequate human resources management on the business and the ability to, again, understand how intercultural competence is necessary in our field, is capital development, okay? So, again, even if we wanted, I think this is not the case, but let's for one moment pretend that the whole academic thing is not relevant. Even if you just wanted this to make money, I recently heard of a family here in Florence who owns a villa, and just because they own the villa, they want to start a study abroad program. Our field is made of that too. That's a reality check. So again, even for those who are approaching this from a strictly financial and managerial kind of a point of view, again, this is not a good idea in my opinion. The major, you Bart probably know this, the major cost of running an operation such as this is human, you know that too, human resources. It's one of the highest costs in an operation like this. The reason was that I'm so glad you're here, an ex-colleague from Roma. I'll let you read the quote, but again, if we think about this in strictly managerial and financial terms, human resources are the big chunk, the big chunk of the pie. It's very important. So again, you want to think about how you invest and use your money. Everyone all read it? Okay.
Sasha, what is that source?
I'll give you the, it's in an article that I'm working on. I can give you all the details.
They're the ones who also said that most HR models are US based, yeah. Okay.
Yes. There's an interesting book, it's in my office, I can show it to you, on international education, management of, international human resources management.
Okay.
It's very interesting. It's a very good book, and it's also prepared so that you can use it if you're interested in courses. It's very high level. I wouldn't use it for undergrads, but it gives a very good overview from the literature in the field since the early 90s to nowadays. It's been published in 2010, so it's quite recent. So we talked about the negative outcomes of not investing sufficiently in human resources and not considering intercultural awareness sufficiently, but what are other potential negative outcomes? The image of the program, home institution, and even the home country. I had students come to me and complain, I found it has to be racist toward the Americans. Yes, it may happen. Image of the program, I'm sure most of you have read the debates on the Chronicle recently about the treatment of faculty and how that reflects on the home campus, and the image of the university. You start the business abroad because you want to represent your university in a shiny way, and yet this can have negative consequences. The indirect costs, as I said, if the strategic planning, or if there's no strategic planning, or if the care in human resources is inadequate, there are a lot of indirect costs, a lot. And this does affect the operation very heavily. Compatibility with ethical standards of universities. Universities have a mission statement about social engagement, about cultural diversity, about equal treatment, about professional development. But then again, is this being done in the international activities and programs? So to kind of conclude, this has been, I hope it's not being overwhelming. And again, I as a personality, I don't think that complaining is useful. I think it's not necessary. So I think a constructive discussion is necessary, and it's necessary to just talk calmly about what the challenges and issues are. And for this reason, when I talk about this, I also like to think about what alternatives do we have? What is it possible? What can be done? Do we have options? Can we do anything? Yes, there are little things that we can do. We can start in some ways. There are things that are possible. So strategic planning is always possible. It's always possible to think long term. It could be a good thing to consider sometimes in some programs, depending to divide administrative and academic responsibilities, to establish clear protocols tailored to the host cultures. When I was talking about communication before, how there must be some thinking about how to do it, kind of standardize it, and a clear communication and transparency. So there must be a better communication between the offshore business or activity and the home campus, in my opinion. What kind of support and tools are available? I'll go through this very quickly. Cultural awareness training, workshops on intercultural issues in both directions. Here about the home country institution, and at the home country institution about the host culture. Both ways. This is necessary both ways. External consultants are always available, career development plans, attention. If possible, if you have a large number of people, it's important to have someone that can dedicate time to human resources problem. Clarity of intentions and job description, that's also important. You can't just put everything together just because you need that. Clear assessment of strengths and qualifications, as I was saying before, we need to be aware of what is it that defines our identity. And network and professional organizations, which again, activities, so it's very important to meet and discuss and bring our ways. So I would like to conclude with this image, which I think it's representative of both what we do here in our field and what we try to do when we try to address this problem. There is a clear intention here to communicate. It's obvious, these two people want to communicate. they are just used to doing it a different way. And I think this is emblematic of our field, you know. So we have to overcome these formal differences and try to find a way to communicate and find and establish a new language. I think we have to start from there, start to find new words to define our